Hello and welcome to this very special program. It's China-Zambia Ties at 60. Now, the country is at a critical place of its economic life cycle. With new initiatives and a drive to improve the welfare of its citizens, the development process is in full swing. One nation that stands out in the history of Zambia's development is China. From projects in different sectors to cultural exchanges, 60 years down the line, we look at the continued strengthening of these ties. I'm Franklin Tembo Jr. here in Lusaka, and joining us from China Global Television Network, CGTN, is Shu Tingtong. Now, I'll be getting to him in a very short while, but as China and Zambia celebrate 60 years of diplomatic relationship, it's time to look back and examine the ties and get prepared for an even stronger future of the two economies. So what are the major highlights of the relationship? What is the future cooperation potential as both countries seek economic transformation and upgrade? We're guaranteed that this will be an exciting and informative program, and I'll be getting to Shu in a moment. But first, allow me to introduce my guests in studio. On my immediate left is Professor Njunga Mlikita. He's an international relations specialist. And on my far left, on the immediate left of Professor Mlikita, is Susiku Nasinda, who is a development finance expert. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much indeed.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much, Frank. It's good to be here.
So those are my guests in studio, Zhu. Good to see you. I hope everything is okay. Who do you have in studio?
Good to see you, Franklin. Thank you. It's a pleasure to co-host with you with the program. A warm welcome to our guests and viewers. Joining me in the Beijing studio are Ye Hailin, President of the China-Africa Institute, and Zhang Yongpeng, researcher from the Institute of West Asian and African Studies at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. Welcome to both of you.
Well, let's begin our conversation and hope we definitely have an important occasion. And I want to start with guests in the studio. And as I welcome you, perhaps it's important to begin our conversation with the description of the development of bilateral relations 60 years on. Let me start with you, Professor. What's your description?
Well, the relations are excellent. Between Zambia and the People's Republic of China. Mm-hmm. They're characterized by certain hallmarks of genuine friendship, reciprocity, equality, non-interference in each other's internal affairs, and respect for the choices that each of the these countries face. So So all in all, it's we're talking about mutually beneficial relationship, a classical example, a model of good, productive, mutually beneficial South-South cooperation.
Let me turn to you, your description.
Thanks, Franklin. Zambia and China's relationship has been growing from strength to strength over the last 60 years. As Zambia celebrates 60 years of independence, our relationship with China also celebrates its 60th anniversary. Over the years, I have witnessed the growth and evolution of this relationship. Having been born on the Copperbelt province in Zambia, where the mining sector was predominantly dominated by Western investors, China came in and made a significant investment, NFCA, on the Copperbelt, if you're aware about it. And now we have seen that Shaft 28 is also being revived in Luanshya. So you can see that China has a significant footprint in key sectors of the economy, such as mining, such as energy, and also manufacturing, as well as agriculture.
Right.
But to cap it all, last year something significant happened because Zambia and China elevated their bilateral ties into a comprehensive strategic cooperative agreement. This means that going forward, there are some sectors of the economy, key sectors, where China and Zambia are seeking to work closely together in order to bring mutual benefit to both countries.
Let me turn to Shu. You may want to have something from here. I wonder what it is.
Absolutely. In picking up of what the guest has said earlier, we started with you, Yunpeng. As he pointed out, China-Zambia relations were upgraded last year to, I quote here, comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership. So this is the highest classification of relationship of China has with partners in Africa. What does that mean?
And for me, there could be at least 4 aspects we should put some stress on. That is, first of all, on China and Zambia has been some complementary cooperation, whether in economic sectors or political supporting each other in the international era. And secondly, it is a cooperation between the 2 sides on the industrialization, and some practical measures and the policies have been implemented between the 2 sides. And thirdly, culturally, we have a very strong tradition of exchanges since 1960s and 70s, and from both sides we have also sent out lots of the cultural exchange delegations, and internationally, and we also have some cooperation in, for example, for the Zambian side, in supporting China's sovereign issues in the international forum or platform, and also at the same time, and China is offering some support as much as possible for Zambia, as well as some of the developing or global South countries to safeguard their sovereignty and the right of development.
Well, here, of course, when we look at this relationship of the 2 countries, they cooperated in their anti-colonialism struggle. And when Zambia declared independence in 1964, China immediately recognized the independence of the country. And a few days later, of course, and basically China established a full relationship, a diplomatic relationship with Zambia. So Halim, the first president of Zambia would call China-Zambia relationship as an all-weather friendship. So people also see that as a role model, basically, for China-Africa relationship. What's the Chinese perspective here?
No, in the recent Beijing summit, FOCAC, all the African countries who has the official diplomatic ties with China, they all upgrade their diplomatic ties with China into the comprehensive strategy.
This is last month.
Yes,
right?
Just 1 month before. But actually it's 1 year later than China and Zambia upgrade their bilateral relationship into this level. But don't underestimate this 1 year ahead. It means a lot, because this 1 year ahead is based on the 60 years model of the China-African relationship, China-African countries' relationship. Not only China-African country, but also the China and the whole global South countries. We know Zambia is one of the first countries who set up the diplomatic ties with China in the Southern Africa. And also, Zambia has the earliest free trade zone, the trade industry complex in Chinese invested in the whole African. And also, Zambia is the earliest country, is the country who signed the MOU on the One Belt and Road initiatives with China. It's one of the earliest countries in Africa. This means a lot. Not only the Tanzania railway system, it also, from the time passing by, in not only the 1960s, from the 1990s to the 21st centuries, Zambia and China always upgrade their relationship, follow the mainstream of the international arena, and follow the international political and economy frameworks. So that means a lot.
Obviously, that's deep and strong relationship there, Franklin.
Absolutely, without question. And Professor Njunga, if you may perhaps add more to what you've heard, we know that Zambia was in the forefront in helping China for a seat at the UN. Would you like to bring that to the fore and Zambia's role in doing that? When at the time, I think it was Taiwan which was recognized, and then there was the motherland, which is China. What was Zambia's role and, in effect, the continent's role in that respect?
Thank you very much, Franklin. Certainly, Zambia played an enormous, a pivotal role in persuading first of all, the African continent and the rest of the international community to recognize that there is only one China, and that's the People's Republic of China, and that the People's Republic of China deserved a seat in the United Nations and on the UN Security Council. So Zambia, in concert with Tanzania, President Kaunda, working very closely with President Nyerere of Tanzania, campaigned very vigorously for this. And the resolution was effected in around November 1971. That is when the General Assembly voted to admit the People's Republic of China at the expense of Taiwan. And the People's Republic of China became a permanent member of the UN Security Council. And I should add that since the People's Republic of China obtained its seat on the UN Security Council, there has been more balance in terms of the way the Security Council makes decisions. In the past, there was the decisions were skewed heavily in favor of the Western countries. Mm-hmm. But since the People's Republic of China came onto the council, decisions have been more balanced, and certainly Africa has benefited from some of the interventions of the People's Republic of China.
Right.
There are other examples I could give, but I think the most important point is to note that Zambia played a pivotal role in this process, and it was the right thing to do because the Security Council has made decisions that are more balanced since the accession of the People's Republic of China.
What do you add to that, and especially, and if we may, the fact that 60 years down the line, we see President Hichilema, as he visits China, there's that attendance of the FOCAC, and there's results that are expected to come from there. Of course, Zambia taking the case of energy as a major area that needs that cooperation. What do you make of all that?
Thanks, Franklin. Friendships evolve over time. And when you look at the Zambia-China relationship and where it is right now, it would be right to call it as best friends. Okay, it's a cemented relationship that looks at mutual objectives and mutual benefits. At the FOCAC this year, the Chinese government made a declaration that they will be investing over $50 billion in the African continent over the next 3 years. And when our president was in China, President Hakainde Hichilema, he did some strategic engagements with regards to the energy sector. Zambia right now is experiencing one of the worst droughts in history, and that has impacted negatively our ability to generate hydropower. So over the last 7 years or so, there's been a big development in the energy sector, the development of the Kafue Gorge Lower hydropower plant, which is 750 megawatts. That was financed as well as developed by China, $2 billion United States dollars. You can see that this is a big investment from the time that the country became independent in 1964. And then now coming into this space of climate change, there's a shift towards renewable energy. And China has a lot of muscle in terms of technical skills, in terms of capacity to develop hydropower solutions such as solar, and to be able to finance those investments in an environment like Zambia. So the call by the Zambian president to invite Chinese investors to come and make investments in the energy sector could not have come at a better time as this. And you define your friends during times of crisis. Those who respond to you when you are in crisis, those are the people that you consider to be your best friends. And I think that Zambia enjoys strong relations with China to the extent that in times of crisis, we're able to call upon them to come and help us to deal with some of the challenges that we're facing in energy.
Xiu, what do you make of that description? Friendships when one is in times of need, and China has certainly stepped up to that tag of being a best friend.
Absolutely, of course, I will ask my guests here in the Beijing studio, Helen, like this from the Chinese experience. If you want to industrialize or modernize the economy, I guess the first thing, of course, connectivity, but also you need power, you need electricity. I mean, currently, as the guest has said, Zambia is going through a very challenging period of time in terms of this shortage of power there. And of course, President Hichilema's visit to Beijing brought a promise of investment from Chinese companies, for example, solar and wind, and also, there's an agreement to build like a 10,000 rooftop photovoltaic projects in Zambia. I mean, how important is that to the country?
It's very important because it's not only serve the purpose of industrialization, but also serve the welfare of the ordinary people. Actually, I have some personal experiments about that. My cousin sister, one of my cousin sister, in the 1980s, she used to serve a very long time as a medical doctor on the Chinese medical team to rescue and to assist the Zambia. So at that time, when she come back, she told me a lot. My first experiments and the knowledge about African, it came from her. And there's a lot of story about the power supplement and the shortage of the power supplement make it how miserable and of the local people, how suffer from this shortage, children, women, pregnant, and so on. So that's a lot of things. And you build a rooftop power supplement, not only serve the very complicated, of course, you can't serve the purpose of the very complicated industrialization process, but you do bring the modernization, the modern life into the ordinary people, to let them enjoy the modern technology, and including the e-commerce. We know in the FOCAC Beijing Summit, the e-commerce cooperation is one of the key words between China and the whole African continent. So in that part, we should know, only we solve the ordinary people's daily life, they can enjoy this modern technology. The e-commerce has meaning. Otherwise, it's totally meaningless.
That's absolutely true, I think, Yunpeng. I mean, if you don't have this, say, connectivity to the power, and even you have this internet service, but you can't log on your computer, for example, Wi-Fi is not working. I mean, there's no mention of this, not impossible to have any e-commerce, right? Or, that's part of the feature of this modern life. So what are the challenges do you see? Of course, there's a promise of investment from Chinese companies. During the president's visit to China, for example, investing in renewable energy. And the president calls China, the country's best partner for new energy cooperation. What's the potential? What's the challenge here?
I think as Professor Ye has mentioned just now, if we have the shortage of power, it will be a great impact on the industrialization process. For example, not only in Zambia, but also, for example, we have in some cases in Addis Ababa and the Djibouti railway. And about nearly 6 years or 5 years ago, and that railway was loaned and built and constructed and completed by the Chinese companies. But after that, the power supply is not so enough. And so that newly built railway cannot be put into operation. So it is a great alarm for us to draw and lessons for the African countries to draw. And so in the case of Zambia, actually Zambia has lots of the water resources and lots of the hydropower stations could be constructed. But sometimes it could be affected largely by the factors of the weather, climate change or
Like
weather
this year,
conditions.
this drought.
Yes, sometimes if the raining is shorted and lacked, and largely the power station and hydropower stations, the facilities could be put into the fault, right? So cease. So now that's why the Zambia government had turned to the constructions and the cooperation with China in the new energy areas, including especially, I have been twice in Zambia. I know that the solar sunlight there, that country is so strong. Yeah, when we step out in the open area, the sunlight could burn the skins of the body. And so that is really a problem. But on the other side, it is a good thing, right, for the building some kind of infrastructure of solar power.
Make full use of that.
Yes, making full use of that. So that's a good condition, natural condition for Zambia. Yeah, and by making use such kind of power stations and solar energy and wind energy, and also even the sea, the river. And of course, Zambia is an exception because it is a landlocked country. But for the other coastal area African countries, then they can try to develop some sea energies, right, or as well as the wind energies. And so this is quite a significant thing to support the African industrialization, and not only for some manufacturing or industries, but also the civil life. Yes.
The foundation.
We know that if lacks the necessary power support, and we cannot start machine. Right, and we cannot put everything, for example, facilities, the modern, as just I mentioned, the e-commerce or some electronic facility instrument could not be used. So quite obviously, it is a very, very fundamental infrastructure for African countries, and especially in the stage of takeoff of their industrialization.
Yes, Franklin, obviously, I mean, they can't emphasize enough about the importance of energy and also the cooperation between the two countries in that respect.
Absolutely. And I want to throw it back to the president of the China Africa Institute here, He Ling, in the sense that whereas investment is appreciated, Zambians are looking forward to ramping up their manufacturing sector. How much of this investment do you think comprises the desire to see Zambia not just export raw materials, but add value to these rich resources that they have? How much of, is that you think is coming from China to help the country be more self-sustaining by having, much more vibrant manufacturing, sector?
If we read the data, actually we should say the Zambia and the China relationship, especially for the trade relationship, Zambia enjoyed a long-term favorable position because China import much more than Chinese export. But we need to go deeply to research, to make the further research. We see most of the products exported by Zambia to China is the raw materials. So it's far away from enough. There requires huge investment to boost the Zambia's industrialization. Currently, only billions of US dollars investment from China to Zambia. And each year, we only have 6 billion trade amount. So not enough. And actually, in my personal opinion, the most important things for China and for Zambia's cooperation in the industrialization process, we should encourage the industrialization localized in Zambia to produce the more products to match the demand of the Zambia's people and the African people. Not only bring the Chinese products into the Zambia's market, but also we need to make the local produced products to match the local people's standard, so that the more and more factories will be built, and the more and more products will be produced, and the more and more people will turn into their life from rural areas economy based into the industrialization based. That means a lot. That means the modernization. Also, I would like to re-emphasize one of the key words that President Xi made a speech in the open ceremony of the FOCAC Beijing Summit that we will encourage the 10,000 small and beauty project to match the demand of the African people. That means all the modernization process, including the industrialization process, should match the demand of the people, not only in the general aspect to talking about how much we already match for the trade volume or something like this. So we should go to the people's daily life.
Right.
That's the point.
That sounds like that should be music to the ears of many Zambians. Jules, let me give you a chance to find out what you want to from my guests.
Yeah, thank you, Franklin. Here, I have a question for Susiku Nasinda. Mr. Susiku, you know, Zambia-China Cooperation Zone is actually the first Chinese economic and trade cooperation zone in Africa, which was established in 2007, 17 years ago. Now, if you look at the performance, you know, many people would be honest about that. They say this is probably below expectation. They should have done it better. So what else can we do to make full use of such an economic zone and to make it really meet the expectation or even go beyond that?
Thank you very much. Economic zones play a key role in helping to develop the manufacturing sector, which was alluded to earlier. So for example, as we go into the future, Zambia has got some key minerals, very key minerals, such as copper and cobalt, which form the core of the renewable energy and energy transition program or agenda. And looking at the fact that Zambia is endowed richly with these minerals, together with its northern neighbor, the DRC. This is a critical time when Zambia and China can sit down on the drawing board to ensure that a significant amount of these natural resources are now processed in Zambia as opposed to being exported to China in their raw form. Ensuring value addition towards minerals, processing of copper, will result into the actualization of the industrial zones, ensuring massive job creation for Zambians, but also providing opportunities for Chinese companies, Chinese investors to actualize their aspirations of becoming leaders in investment on the African continent and in Zambia. So for me, processing of minerals, especially copper, locally, processing of cobalt, as we go into the future, will become key. This is because Zambia has an ambitious plan of ramping up copper production to 3 million metric tons within the decade. I think this provides a wonderful opportunity for Zambia and China to be able to actualize their mutual benefits and efforts towards making sure that the industrial economic zones are put to use.
To make sure this full use of these industrial zones over there, Franklin. I mean, the focus will be on mineral and, of course, the also win-win model here.
Right. They absolutely have a lot of potential to be a game changer. I want us to move a little bit from economic discussion to cultural exchanges because that's very strong. And I want to bring in Zhang Yongpeng, who is a researcher for the Institute of West Asian and African Studies at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. So when you look at the power of culture and tourism, has there been enough exchanges between the two countries? And if not, what should be done, you think?
Yeah, I think the economic sector is, after all the initial aspects of the bilateral cooperation, and for the people-to-people exchange and the tourism, including and the cultural exchanges, which could be the most important foundation or the basic factors in promoting the bilateral relations, because without people-to-people understanding and the exchanges, and they could not exchange and negotiate or talk in the economic sectors and the political exchanges. And so the civilization exchange is the first important and the basis for any of the bilateral relations between China and the African countries. And so furthermore, and referring to the previous topic as for the diversification of the African economy and especially Zambian economy, I would like to say a few words that is the basic important. We know that the mineral industry of Zambia is the basic pillars to support its GDP growth. And how to diversify its economy could be the most important. And so in this sector, and China had done in its cooperating with the Zambia side, for example, when established the economic and the trade zone early in 2007, and I was there in 2009 and visited the site, and the China and African enterprises, they have established some joint management committee, and with the share company, and the Chinese side occupies maybe less than 50%, with the Zambia side occupied more than 50%, and both are managing and coordinating, collaborating in the management of the that refinery, copper mineral refinery. And according to me, to my knowledge at that time, and according to the introduction from the Chinese side, after 20 years of the establishment of such kind of refineries, the total facilities and the machines and lots of the technologies would be transferred totally 100% to the Zambia side. I think in this respect, this is the basic and really crucial way in supporting Zambia industrialization and to make it economic diversified.
Right. It's an important point, isn't it, that you cannot, you first have to start with understanding between each other, and then you go to your issues to do with the economy and industrialization. I wonder what it is that you have for my guest from that end.
Yes. This is, Professor, John talked about this diversification of the economy. You cannot rely on the minerals probably long term alone. Of course, you want to diversify in many aspects, including trade, actually. By the end of 2012, I have this question for Professor Njunga Muliketa. By the end of 2022, that's about 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago, China has reduced the tariff to 0 for 98% of products originating from Zambia. So we have seen, during the president's visit, there's talk of the export of blueberries to China on the heel of this agreement of export of soybeans to China. And also there's a talk of investment from the Chinese side in the agriculture sector, for example, in those fertilizer, in those pesticides, and also aspects related to agriculture development. So are we seeing the huge potential of development, either trade of agricultural products or investment there?
Thank you very much for the question. Yes, indeed, you raise a very important issue. The decision by the People's Republic of China to allow these products, particularly agricultural product, duty-free, I think is a very auspicious portent, auspicious omen for Zambia. And the challenge really now is on our side to take the necessary measures to respond so that we can, supply the markets of the People's Republic of China abundantly. In fact, last week I attended a roundtable at which the ambassador of the People's Republic of China spoke, and he raised this issue, and he talked about a matrix that the embassy had put together in conjunction with the government, which will enable them to monitor jointly the implementation of all these memoranda of understanding, including this issue of duty-free access of our agricultural, exports into the Chinese market. For instance, soya beans has been mentioned. So I think it's very important. It's a very auspicious development, but it requires us to work hard, to liaise, to work very closely with the People's Republic of China, the embassy here, to ensure that we fully respond to this opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, during the president's visit, there's more than than this investment in agriculture sector. I want to have this question for Helen here. Of course, one of the important items on the president's China visit is the MOU for the revitalization of Tanzania, the railway connecting Zambia to Tanzania. So what does that mean, revitalization? In what model the two countries will work together? So I think that will, ultimately a win-win result. Both sides will benefit from that kind of program.
I will take this question also combined with our host in Zambia's studio. They raised the question about the tourism. Mm-hmm. Actually, my understanding, of course, the Tanzania's railway system's renovation need to follow the principle of the market and the commerce, because only that this railway system can make the mutual benefit. It's not like in 1960s. At that time, we built this railway to block it, to break the blockade of the Westerners and the Westerners' colonizations towards the new emerging countries. So it served the purpose of the strategy, but now it should make the mutual benefit. How we make it? Not only we talk about the bill based on the commercial or the market principle, and that's simple, not like this. For me, for my understanding of this, these are quite important not only for the transportation, but also serve the purpose of the tourism. For example, if there's a joint venture company who make the investment on the renovation of the railway system between not only China and Zambia, but also Tanzania, we can make this railway system as a very prosperous tourism project for not only for these three countries, but for the whole world. Mm-hmm. In my understanding, if only for China, if we do have this kind of the tourism projects, there will be millions of the Chinese people who has the personal linkage with the railway. They would like to go to visit to see what happened.
Right.
One day, half century ago, they spent their blood and their sweat into this railway system to sacrifice for these two countries or three countries, people's the new countries' independence. So that means a lot, and such kind of the project need to be encouraged, not only from the Zambia or China, but from the whole Africa. Actually, it could be a model for the new type of the tourism. Between the tourism cooperation between China and the whole African countries.
Mm-hmm. Well, history itself could be a point of attraction for tourism, for tourists, especially here from China, of course, one of the largest populations in the world, frankly.
Well, I'll tell you, the conversation between Zambia and China is almost incomplete if you don't touch on matters to do with Tazara, and it's such an iconic project, that one. And I'm going to get two quick points from my guests here to look at the revitalization of Tazara itself and how it potentially is a game changer, and that you can't speak about Zambia's independence without mentioning Tazara and what it has been able to do. Granted, there are also desires to have consideration of moving towards an electric trains, for example. Tanzania is showing it. You've got China, as a friend, and you've got this particular project that stands out from the many of the project that China has made, of course, in friendship with Zambia.
Yeah. Thanks, Franklin. The transport sector plays a very, very key role in the development of a country, and rail is one of the areas where Zambia is looking to strengthen its muscle and ability. So there have been some key pronouncements lately in terms of railway development, the Lobito corridor, and now the revitalization of Tazara. As Zambia flies, or as Zambia soars towards 3 million metric tons, it will be important that a significant portion of these mineral resources are then transported or exported out of the country through key railway infrastructure such as Tazara. This will save the roads on the Zambian in the Zambian space, and will also reduce the costs. So that's what railway does. It reduces the cost significantly, and then also ensures that the roads are saved. So, for example, right now there's the Lusaka-Ndola dual carriageway, which is also being developed by a Chinese consortium, Macro Oceans Investment Consortium, through a PPP model. Once that road is completed, it will be important that the two countries, the developer, the Zambian government, protect that investment so that it can last for a long time. How do we reduce the strain on the road? It's by ensuring that a key infrastructure such as Tazara is revived, revamped, given the right kind of locomotives that will be able to carry heavy processed goods outside into the country, into China. So it comes at a very, very crucial time, and I'm excited that China and Zambia have sat on a round table, discussed the importance of this infrastructure, and the Chinese government has given confirmation that they are investing into the revitalization and revamping of Tazara.
Right, Professor, we have to go, but I need you to add a voice to that.
I can only reiterate, I can only support what my colleague has just said. It's a very auspicious development. I mean, it's part of the Belt and Road Initiative. It also is, it will be a catalyst to regional integration in Eastern and Southern Africa. It will enhance regional prosperity, African unity, so forth and so on. And just 2 weeks, I think it was just last week, the Minister of Transport announced that Zambia, Burundi, and other countries were joining the Central Corridor facility, and that's Tazara basically. So if it will be, this plan is very good. It's very auspicious for the region, and it also it's consistent with the African Continental Free Trade Area. That's all about linking the continent through transport corridors, transport routes, so forth and so on.
Right.
So I think it's an auspicious development.
Right.
Yeah.
Gilles, unfortunately, the story of Zambia and China cannot be told in the short time that we have. I mean, it's too long, but we've made an effort to try and highlight some of the issues that define the friendship between the two countries. This has been great conversation having with you.
A wonderful conversation indeed. Thank you, Franklin, and also many thanks to our guests. Hope we can see more fruitful China-Zambia cooperation in the future.
Absolutely, and hope we can have such interactions even more further than what we have today. But Zambia celebrates 60 years of its independence, 60 years of Zambia-China relations. I think this calls for big, big celebration, don't you?
Absolutely. Well, that's our discussion today. And here is Qinduo, together with my colleague from Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation, Franklin.
Well, real pleasure having you, Zhu, from CGTN. And I'm afraid that's all we had for you. Until we meet again, healthy conversations. I wish to thank my guests in studio here in Lusaka and, of course, in Beijing. Thank you so much for those very qualitative insights into the discussion that we have this particular occasion. And until next time, this has been China-Zambia Ties at 60. We appreciate your company, and we'll only pray that all will be well. Goodbye.